Hello. Thank you. I'll try. So, good afternoon. Uh, my name is Carlo Carenjo. I'm a publishing consultant from Alpine Global Collective and also part of ThinkPub, an initiative with my friend Mihalis here. And welcome to this panel that we're going to be discussing. The name of the panel is The Future is Now and Who's Afraid of AI? And I have my three friends here together. So Prashant, Argyris, and Nadine. So instead of presenting you in the very academic way, I'll just transfer the microphone. You introduce yourselves, tell a little bit about what you do, how it could be related to AI, and then I have some cool questions for you.
Hi, I'm Prashant Pathak. I work with Junti Editore as head of English publishing development. My relationship with AI is a bit. Sometimes it's warm and sometimes it's cold. So I'm just still trying to figure out how it can be placed within my ecosystem. But a lot of times it has become really helpful, especially not with the creative process, but the processes around the creativity.
Good morning. I'm Argyris Castagnotis, publisher. So apart from the new tools that we have handy in order to produce and replicate the content, I'm also at the International Publishers Association Copyright Committee. So I am trying to to place the framework for companies, tech companies, who mine our data without paying any compensation and giving credit to the creators of the content that they use in order to train. That's not an easy task, but we're trying.
I'll try mine. Have I got my own one? I have my own one. Hello, I'm Nadeem Sadek. I'm half Irish, half Egyptian, and based in London. And apart from being mixed up that way, I also wear different hats. So I'm the CEO of an AI company called Shimmer, and we produce advertising using AI for books, which I can tell you more about if you like later on. But I'm also an author. So yeah, 2 days ago, the Greek edition of my book was launched by Argyris. Thank you very much, my publisher, which is a book about how publishing can embrace AI. I'm also just about to publish a children's book. So I kind of wear the author's hat and the CEO of an AI company hat, and sometimes the hats don't fit together very well, but I try.
And it's the first AI translated book that we know of in Greek.
Is it?
Yes. Sorry, it's the first AI translated book that we know of that it's translated by AI.
Which your editors also do.
Obviously, we had a human editor to edit the translation, but as far as we know, this is the first.
Cool. So I will start a very open question. So the name of the panel is Who's Afraid of AI? So do you see AI as a threat or as an opportunity for creativity, or both? And how do you position yourself into that? More like, what should you be afraid of and what should you be very excited of, especially applied to publishing? You.
Okay. Now, obviously, the technology behind artificial intelligence is very interesting and very helpful and very useful and everything. The problem with the technology are the companies that develop the technology, which operate without transparency, and a lot of the developers, the mechanics that worked at these companies, have expressed a concern regarding of the time that these technologies were made public, and as far as we know, they don't even know themselves how these things work at the moment and how they learn and how they teach themselves, because the machine teaches itself how to generate content and the images and video and everything. So obviously it's a big opportunity for everyone to have access to tools to make your life easier and everything, but it's a huge threat not just for creators, but if you take an abstract look of for democracy as well. I don't want to step into that because that's another conversation. But if you look into it, it's fairly problematic of how the tech companies operate and create these tools.
Dean?
I'm actually writing a book at the moment about how creativity can embrace AI, which is a follow-up to this, which is about publishing embracing AI. So I'm going a bit more widely, and I'm looking at films, music, gaming, and a few other things. And I'm really optimistic about the way AI can contribute to creativity. I want to say specifically that I think one of the worst ways to use AI is to write a book. I think you get mundane, anonymous, boring writing from it, and it lacks the emotional inspiration that humans.
But do you think
it's
it's gonna get better?
It's going to get better for sure, and it can simulate humanity better and better and better. But I think, I gave a talk here yesterday. Sorry if some of this is repetitive for those of you that came to my talk about AI yesterday. But we human beings do two things: we feel and we think. And I think what is going to happen is that AI is going to do more of the thinking through kind of rational, logical, objective processes, and we will feel our way much more. So my argument is that AI liberates humans to be more human and to trust their gut and their instinct and their spontaneity and their inspiration much more than before.
My question is, do humans feel nowadays?
I don't know what you mean.
But just following up on that, yes, I love the way you divide rationality and feelings when talking about AI. That was super interesting. And that reminds me of a quote by Anne Godoff. She's an American publisher, and she has this quote that I love, which is, as an acquisition editor, she says, "I acquire with my guts and I publish with my heart."
Yeah.
So as AI develops, are you still then going to have space for guts and hearts in publishing or not? For all of them.
Yeah, Prashant, why didn't you answer?
Go ahead.
So Anne Godoff, she's an American acquisition publisher, and she said once that I acquire with my guts and I publish with my heart. So as AI develops, and that was years ago, do we still have space and the necessity of heart and guts in publishing?
100%. 100%. So guts and heart are not going to go away. It will be within your body for sure, right? What AI does is helps you to make tactical decisions. It gives you a broader understanding of whether it might work or not work in a certain situation or a period of time. So, a good product, and as I said, I said this in Bologna, basically we are in the business of publishing content. That content has to be good, and if the content is good, it will sell. But other elements kick in because we are living in the age of data, big data, keywords, and AI basically simplifies this for users who are not very well versed with the difficult terms. So it's easy to go type, pick it out, understand, and so I would say publishing is a business which is totally feeling oriented, gut oriented, and it will remain that forever. But I'll go back to your previous questions about threats and opportunities. So when we talk about publishing and when we talk about creativity in publishing, I think most of the time we just stop thinking that creativity in publishing involves only with the content. But in publishing, creativity also includes designing, printing, marketing. So when you talk about creativity and opportunities of AI in publishing, I think it's really helpful in marketing. It's not that you are basically marketing something and just you're basically developing something from AI and picking it up. It can give you an option. It can give you a side, and then you are the final decider to choose. But and I wrote this down, and I want to read it out. That tools like Adobe tools like Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign use AI for design suggestions already, and it's been years, right? Object selection, and they give you options on object selection and layout automation. Printing machines have been using AI to detect flaws, adjust colors and optimize ink usage. We have been calibrating these machines for years. So there has been that artificial intelligence element with creativity already in publishing. So when it comes to content, we get a bit wary. We should get a bit wary because it's a human-based business. It's something which comes from the heart. And in terms of threat in publishing, especially with the children's content or maybe with the adult content, I think the biggest threat is the protection of copyright, which Nadeem clearly pointed out yesterday in his talk, that once we have figured...
Closer to your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once we have figured out the regulations regarding the protection of copyright, and we make sure that everybody who, if something is getting picked from someone and they are getting incentivized in a certain manner, I think we would not be that afraid using AI. So right now we are living in the time where we have this big fear of unknown, and we just don't know how it is going to pan out, and then we are panicking. And something like this really happened in 2008, 2009, 10 when ebooks came in, and we were all really worried, and a lot of publishers said the books are going to go away and the technology is going to take over and there'll be demons and monsters and we'll not be reading books, and the paper is still around. And we have embraced ebooks and we have embraced audio by the side of it. So I think in some way or the other we would embrace AI. There will be definitely some sort of threats there, but there are huge opportunities I see.
When I was researching this next book, I came across Einstein. We all know that Einstein's one of our greatest thinkers, not feelers. We know him as a thinker. And he wrote, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift." So even 100 years ago, Einstein was saying, trust your gut, trust your gut. That's what life's about. And I think that's something we need to count as precious and hold. But on the wider question you asked, Carla, I think we need to split in talking about publishing the application of AI to creativity from the publisher's perspective and from the author's perspective. So publishers can do all sorts of things like experiment with covers or not, and do layouts and do all sorts of rationalizing and efficiency drives and things which make the production of a creative artifact more efficient and sometimes better as well. But authors just work mostly by themselves, vulnerable, sensitive, anxious, never knowing whether it's going to work or not. And having a collaborator that is never fatigued, is always tolerant, tries to be positive, and tries to be a companion in your creative journey is incredibly helpful. And you can do it trivially. Like when I was writing a passage in my children's book, I was writing about a little boy looking out at the sea, and he remarks that the sea is blue. Now, we all know the sea is blue generally. How many people know why the sea is blue? See, not many of us. I couldn't remember why the sea is blue. And so I just went to my AI and I said, why is the sea blue? And it gave me this little answer that made me, as a writer about that little passage, feel much more comfortable to express something around it. So the companionship and the creativity and the confidence that you get to test some of your thinking or a bit of your writing or a narrative arc or the way a character is working with another character is incredibly precious. And I think it's a real liberation of creativity. So I think it's fantastic before you go, a bit scared to your publisher and say, could you get your editor to look at this and can you qualify my manuscript? You've actually got a lot of work done already. And so I find AI incredibly helpful for creativity.
Great. I'd like to talk a little bit now about the copyright issues. And I agree, as you have mentioned to the Greek press, that maybe we should have a tax on AI companies. That was one of your ideas. So should you have tariffs also on AI? So
yes,
but just elaborate more on that and on the challenge.
We have the recent example of the levy imposed on the platforms like Google and Facebook for the content they reproduce through the platforms, for the media content, like newspapers, magazines, and when a user uploads the link to the platform, it copies the content. So they steal, in some sense, the content from the news agents. So the levy was imposed, and it's collected by the collective societies from each country, and then it's distributed to the creators. In the same sense, now, because Prasnak mentioned Adobe and printing, all the systems that we use now today, our mobile phones, our computers, Word, Adobe InDesign, Dropbox, everything that Gmail, collects our data non-stop, all of it, okay? Even before we published anything. So this is how the machine is trained. In this sense, we should be compensated for our content and for our creations, because copyright exists even if you don't publish anything. If you write an original idea in your WordPress or your Word document, it's yours to keep. And if you decide to monetize on it, it's your decision. So the machine has it, though. Even if you write a post in Facebook and you decide not to post it and you delete it, it's saved in the Facebook servers. So it has already trained the machine. So in that sense, there should be a way in order for the rest of us to be compensated for the use of our thoughts and ideas and creations. And I think the levy is the most easiest way to do that, because we already have the example of Google and the rest.
Interesting. Any comments on copyright, Prashant, or how would you solve the problem?
I mean, there should be some sort of regulation. I don't know how and when and how it can be created, but I mean, the whole idea of compensating everyone on Earth, because everybody is a creator in some way or the other, is practically impossible. So I don't know. I mean, this is a tricky one, but blockchain, I don't know if that's something sustainable, but then the whole ecosystem to run a blockchain is too expensive. So I think that, and nobody's going to compensate anyone. Nobody's going to give money to anyone. So that's pretty sure. So
the problem is, sorry to interrupt, if you say the obvious that this should be all public, made from the governments and by the people for the people, you become extreme left for some reason. But
so that's why you want tariffs.
So yeah, it's a difficult thing to. I mean, it's very far in the future at this point of time. Yeah, go ahead.
On copyright, now speaking as the CEO of an AI company, we had to, we produce advertising, we produce images, captions, music, and increasingly now videos. And if we produce them entirely using AI, we can't copyright them. We therefore can't give them to our customers to deploy them. So we've had to build in a system to demonstrate the humanity of the artifacts that we're bringing in. And this kind of human element in the creative artifact is a sensitive one that's still being tested. But lawyers are really looking at where copyright rests, what authenticity is, and we as users, we use a lot of AI every day, have really had to think through how we interact with copyright. From the publishers or the authors' perspectives, the EPUBs that come to us or the PDFs never go into the training system of the AI. We use AI on those manuscripts, but we don't send them to the AI. So that's an important distinction. You can use AI without giving away the copyright to an AI.
So since you mentioned exactly Shimmer, normally people think about AI in publishing, in editing, translation, narration, but you took the approach of taking AI to advertisement, basically, and marketing, publishing. So could you go a little bit deeper on Shimmer and explain what Book DNA is?
Sure.
And more importantly, what has surprised you when using the Shimmer technology? What has surprised some publishers, some case or something that was interesting as a learning factor in the process?
Okay, well, let me tell you about it first. We're really an advertising business that's focused purely on publishing. We might focus on other things in the future, but we looked at publishing only to begin with because it has some really interesting characteristics. It has what people call a very deep inventory. There's a lot of books. Like in English alone, there's 100 million books or more. 95 million of those have never been advertised. You also have a discoverability problem that mostly things are on the front list briefly, then they hover around the start of the backlist, and then they're in the backlist, and they probably don't get much more attention, and it's hard to find work. So great works sit there unsurfaced, not in the light, which is why we're called shimmer. And the other thing is that books have got not only interesting narrative depth, they've also got psychological depth. They're one of the richest products, if you like, that AI can work on. So we trained our machine to do three things. If you imagine the shimmer advertising factory, it has three machines talking to each other. They're each an agent, actually, if you're keeping up with AI vocabulary these days. Each machine is an agent, and we have an agentic framework. So the first agent is an analyzer, and it reads the book from front to back. It doesn't look at the cover, doesn't look at reviews, it just says, what did the author intend? And so to tell you a sort of a silly example, I used it yesterday, it might be a book about fishing in Sweden, but the psychological analysis of the book shows that it's about depression, melancholy, and cruelty. Weird book, but it's a distinctive book. So the book DNA then is that matrix of understanding of the ingredients, both in narrative terms and in psychological value terms. And the analyzer then says, hey, generator, the second machine, this is the book's DNA, make some advertising that brings it to life. So we're now bringing to life the work between the two covers. The book no longer has to work just from its cover. It's working with the words between the covers. And the generator produces a series of ads, all high-fidelity manifestations of the author's intention for their book, psychologically and otherwise. And then when it's produced that campaign, it hands it to the third machine, which is called the deployer, and it says, please go find the people that are going to find this book with these values interesting. So it goes to Meta, it goes to Google, it goes to Pinterest or Reddit or LinkedIn, and it says, do you have anybody in your platform who seems to be interested in Sweden, fishing, melancholy, depression, cruelty? And it comes back automatically, yeah, we have them over here, and we place the ads against those people. We don't know who they are, we don't have personally identifiable information, but they've been profiled by the platform, and they match with our profile. So we're showing books to people that we know are going to like them in a way that brings the book to life and drives them to e-commerce. So that's the way the machine works. And we work with about 200 publishers. At the moment, we're only in English, I'm afraid. But we're perfecting the product, and then we'll launch it in multiple languages simultaneously. And I suppose what we've been surprised by is the speed with which publishers of all sizes have come to us. So the big 5 trade publishers are all talking to us. I'm not allowed to say which ones have gone into contracts with us, but we have contracts. And really, almost every other smaller publisher has too many books and too few resources, human and capital, to be able to manage individualized advertising campaigns for every title in their catalog. They can't do it. But with AI, you can change the economics of that really fundamentally. And by matching, you're not flooding the market, you're just showing the right book to the right person. So it's been successful. I suppose I've been surprised by, because people will say publishing is slow and very conservative. It hasn't been like that with us. We're solving a big problem, so people have come to us fast.
So you just say that it's a particularly interesting solution for the backlist then, or?
Yes, I think it is, but actually some people are using it as pre-pub and for the front list as well. The reason it's interesting for the backlist is you can see whether it's having an effect, whereas if you're doing the front list, there are other things going on as well.
All right. And keeping in being a little bit more practical, because you guys here are publishers, so we talk about these tools and everything. What actually at Giunti or at Castagnotis are already being used in terms of AI in the daily? Is it still something for next week, or is it there? I'm not talking about in design inside it. I'm talking real stuff.
So I'll just build on something which Nadeem just said about shimmer. And so as a publisher, and I like the program, I've used it and I've advocated for it to a lot of people. But so as a publisher, I see that when you talk about these 3 machines and 3 agents, right? And when you describe what these single agents do, it's not the full, I mean, that means that's 3% in my publishing team. And whatever they are doing, it's not their full-time job. So basically, they are doing something which is a little bit deviates from their job. So a marketing person is like thinking, a graphic designer is like selecting, and an editorial person is somewhat giving the text. So if I use your tool, I'm basically giving the full liberty to these three people to work on their core job. So it really helps. So this is something when you think about the business and publish. For us, publishing is a business, right? A lot of people do publishing for passion, and it's something they want to bring something out to the world. But with large enterprises, publishing is a business. We are in this business of selling books, and the premise of every business is to make it more efficient and make profits also at the end of it. So something like this really works for us. And in Junti and also in my previous organization, heavily AI we have been using in terms of collecting data, analyzing data, and trying to predict something for the future. So based on the sell ins and sell outs, we're trying to figure out a number. We are collecting all sort of metadata from wherever we can find the data, put it into the system, trying to analyze what could be the next trend, right? You cannot be 100% right, but if this is what publishing is. You keep on trying, you keep on innovating, you keep on trying to understand. So what could be the next trend? I mean, this is something. So romance is happening, and then a lot of self-help is happening. What I can see in the next 6 months, 1 year, looking at the history of whatever has been published in 5 years and the sales figure. What is the price point which is suitable for a certain market or a certain segment? I mean, if a 9.99 in children is selling really well, or a 12.99 is selling really well. So it really helps us in making those decisions. Translation, we use tools not to translate, but use tools to understand. I mean, we will do a little bit of translation to see if it works, and then it goes to the real translator. But then I'm really not involved in the editorial process, but I'm pretty sure that none of our fiction titles are getting translated through AI because it's very complicated. But a lot of non-fiction is something which, I mean, if you're talking about solar system in Greek and you translate it through AI, I mean, there are 99.9% chances that it will be 100% correct, right? But if you're talking about your feelings in Greek and you translate it into Italian, there are chances that, I mean, it will be hardly like 50-60% correct, and then there has to be a human intervention. And so from on the translation side, on the creative side, no, but in the on the side of data automation and trying to make sure that things go faster, yes.
So yeah, talking about translation, Argyris, you published lots of literary translation.
Yes.
And so what's your vision? Do you think AI could be a tool forever, or could eventually replace something, especially on literary translation? That's always the last frontier, but...
Yes. So from my point of view, there are book publishers and book producers. Okay. Now, a book producer can use the data in hand. There are several out there in order to find the next commercial title and commission it and produce it and sell it. Now, the role of the publisher is to discover the book no one wants to read. So the author from some part of the world that has written the text that everyone wants to read, but no one knows it exists. So this data, it's not out there. You cannot predict this kind of data. It takes intuition. And this is a human aspect, not a machine. So this is the role of the publisher. Now, obviously, we are literary fiction publishers, and this is our job to discover the next Nobel Prize winner. And we do it properly.
We're going to use AI for that now.
No, right? We use Gregory Bekos. He's right there. So but this title by Nadim, we struck the deal. We agreed in the London Book Fair in May or April. April. And now it is printed and it is available for you to read because of AI. Otherwise, it would take 4 to 6 months. It's a small book. and that's an optimistic the time frame. So obviously, we do use AI, not just for this case. It's similar, not so focused to DNA, the DNA Nadim just mentioned, but we have the ability to upload the text, have the basic, if someone doesn't have the time to read it and needs to promote it, it gives you the basic bullet points, the theme, the marketing metadata, and the other day the government passed this kids wallet law for parents to be able to, and we had a book that was related to this. So I uploaded the text, I uploaded the news, and I asked it to produce an article in order to promote the book. Took me 3 minutes. We posted, and it's gone viral as well. So it helps in this sense for us. Obviously, our children's editor, they use it in order to give directions to the illustrators of how they would like the book to be illustrated, for example. Instead of writing, you can write to the generator and give them an image. I just received the message on my anyway, sorry. So yes, it's very helpful, but I'm concerned about the tech companies.
Any comment, Prashant?
I don't know. I mean, when we talk about AI, as far as I know, in publishing, everybody is using AI. I mean, they might not be telling you, especially the big ones. They have divisions. They have been researching far deep into it. But there's one thing I can tell you for sure. I mean, as far as my understanding goes, in the near future, translators and editors are not replaceable. So you don't have to worry about that. It's just that you have to pick up a new skill, a skill that can help you. And that skill right now is generative AI. And till the time it's generative, I think I'm happy till the time it's generative, till the time it's self-sustained and it's doing everything on its own, then I think we need to worry more. But I don't know how many years far away we are from that. So yeah.
So just to provoke a little bit on translation. So Todd McElroy, which is an American expert in AI now, he just published, I think last week, on his LinkedIn. So I'll just read it. There wasn't an English translation of Pinocchio available. So I bought the Italian original and translated it with Cloud AI. With a few exceptions, the translation is fluid and easy to read. Given the complexity of the ideas shared in the book, I think Claude did a fine job. Without this approach, I would likely have to wait a year or more for an English edition. Was what I did unethical or illegal? I'm not sure. That's what they published. So the question for you is, was it? And more provoking, could you see a future where publishers won't translate anymore because actually the translator tool will come from a tool from the publishers and translators to a reader's tool? In a moment where you just buy the book in the original language and you as a reader can do exactly what Todd McElroy did last week with an Italian book.
I think we're going to have a spectrum of things. You know, when you listen to music, sometimes you listen to it in the lift, in the lobby, and you're barely appreciating it. Sometimes you're more focused. It might be music you work to. Other times it's like Friday night and you want to listen to your music. And then occasionally you go to the concert hall. You know, there are different modalities of appreciating all creativity. And I think human translated or human narrated as well, because audiobooks come into this conversation. I think that where the art of the human is apparent, you have a richer experience and a more fulfilling one. And I think for that reason, there will always be human translated, high quality. I think these are going to become the premium editions. I think we're going to see a spectrum of publishing where there is going to be a huge portion that is machine managed, and then the premium editions will be the human interpreted, performed, dimensioned versions of the books. That's what I anticipate happening. but I'm not a publisher.
Yeah, but we'll see all sorts. The brand, the label, inside Intel, Intel inside, it used to be human inside, and we'll have something similar to it in some sort. But Nadim, I was just talking, so after this we can listen to the song AI created for this panel. Okay, I just requested it.
Yes.
So obviously, it's playing in my head. Sorry.
He has AI glasses on, you have to say.
Yeah, these are AI glasses. So Zuckerberg is looking at you. So, yes, I think very soon we'll be able to translate on our phones, on our reading devices, transform the text into audiobook without having a recording of the text. Maybe chat with the book instead of uploading it to ChatGPT. It will be incorporated in our reading software. So, but this will be a different experience compared to the printed edition. I don't think the printed edition will stop to exist, because as an artifact, the printed book is a perfect tool. It does what it says on the cover. It doesn't need power. You can write on it. You can fold the pages to make a bookmark. And I think we discussed this yesterday, that if you can smell it and touch it and feel it, and if you read at the beach in the summertime and your sunscreen and the sun falls in the book, you can pick it up in the wintertime and travel back to the beach. So it has more than one.
You should keep some sand in it too.
Exactly, yes. That's the idea. So I believe that we're going to consume, especially if someone's a heavy reader and reads a lot of titles. I know for Michalis, for example, he started his blog 10 years ago because he was a heavy reader. His flat was packed with books, and he discovered electronic readers. And suddenly he could continue his habit without needing to move to a larger apartment. So 15 years, yeah, we are getting older. Anyway, so, but I know that people that read the book and fall in love with it and get moved, because it's not just knowledge and stories, it's also experiences and feelings, and they tend to go out there and buy the book and have it in their bookshelf as a trophy, as a postcard, as a memorabilia from their experience. So the only problem I can see is that paper it tends to get more expensive every year. Now we have this framework by the European Union for the environmental aspect of printing, and not just the paper, the whole chain of production. It has to be environmental friendly and everything, which will bring the cost up. So it will be printed books will be accessible to fewer people because of the cost, not because of their will, which used to be the aspect before the paperback, if you remember. So, there's a circle going around. Digital will replace the paperback, but you will still have the hardcover and, the nice edition for you to get if you need it. So.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
If we could control what a user would do, we could win half of the battle. So we don't know what the user is going to do, whether he wants to download it or not. They are using, still there are few people who are buying original books. There are few people who are buying pirated books. There are few people downloading the books from the torrent. So I think in future, I'm talking about when these tools are really robust, I think there will be people who will figure out a way to do it for free, and there will be people who will be using regular tools. And I think at that point of time, the people who are using regular tools will be paying some sort of subscription. And if they are using such services, I don't know if there can be a mechanism which can be generated where the revenues can be shared if they are using my book and translating using Cloud AI or any other AI, or if they are basically using the glasses and putting the book in front of them and seeing it real-time translated, and we can figure out a way that, okay, this book was translated, so the publisher will get some sense out of it. So I don't know if that is possible, but I mean, it's going to happen. So that we'll have to figure out. And in terms of nostalgia, I always have a question, right? We always talk about nostalgia of printed books and publishing, but imagine a situation, a child is born and you have never introduced them with paper, you have just given them technology. Will they be nostalgic? So, yeah, I mean, that's where I leave.
Yeah, absolutely. Before opening for questions, I have one last comment / question on translation. I always find it a little bit imperialistic when people talk about AI translation. It is always about getting this fantastic big language and making it available to these poor, stupid little languages. You know, now we can translate from English to Marathi or to Greek. And I look at it, and yeah, of course there'll be more accessibility, but to be honest, lots of people that speak the smaller language, they speak English or German. So I think the real gain actually will be the other way around. The real gain is allowing Americans British who traditionally only speak one language to be able to read something Estonian now or Icelandic. I'd just like your comments on that. I think the real opportunity for business and accessibility is going from a smaller language like Greek to the word and not the other way around. So I'd love to hear your comments on that.
I agree completely with you, and I gave the anecdote yesterday that, you know, if you read every Scandi Noir, you know, piece out there, every title, you can ask for the Mongolian versions, then you go and you discover the Mongolian person who writes in the same style. I've actually been surprised. So we're using an Indian startup called Ilesa for our translations, and they do. AI translation is becoming more sophisticated. It started with just direct comprehension. This word means, and it would choose it and give it to you. They're now adding contextual layers. This is a book about AI for the publishing community, so use that lexicon. It's being delivered mainly in the UK or the American markets, so put on those sorts of words. You know, it's becoming more and more sophisticated and nuanced in the way that it's attuned. But using that company, I said, you know, could we do this book in Uzbek? Because I was asked for an Uzbek edition. Yes, you know, a Bulgarian one, a Romanian one. So that's still the English to those. But then I said to them, could we get from those to English? And they said, just as easily. So I think the training data is greater in English because there's more written in English, but there's already enough in most languages to do a good reverse translation to English from those languages. And that surprised me, but it's apparently already there.
Any comment?
No, this is a great opportunity for us because, first of all, in the English language in the UK and the United States, only 2.7% of the titles are foreign fiction translated from other languages. So currently, those readers don't have access to a Greek, to a French, to Italian, to Indian, to whomever. So there's a huge market out there of readers that we could access through English translations, which could be done much easier and less expensive than now. Obviously, there are subsidies that anyone can use in order to translate, like the Greek Lit program from Lviv, which organizes it. But it should be much easier with the new AI, which is accessible now. And currently, not in the future, Greek publishers have great competition from the English-speaking edition of the titles that we translate into Greek, because as you mentioned, the younger generations are more fluent in English. And the English editions are much cheaper, and they're faster in the market because we have to translate them. We lose time for the
time for payback, man.
Exactly.
Okay, do you have any questions from the audience? Okay. Start here.
Hello, thank you. First, I'm a teacher literature. I'm teaching literature. I'm a translator and I'm also a writer. So I have like different perspectives of what's happening, and it's great to hear some from you. What I find like astonishing is I find ways to use it, just as you mentioned, like trying to be ethical as someone older than my students, trying to translate something, for example, and then doing some cooperation, like asking for opinions when I feel stuck or while writing. But whatever I do this to teach my students, like you said, they have no understanding of usually like 16, 17-year-olds of that, what I have. And they find sideways. For example, I write on Gemini, did you generate this text? Because they write stories to me with AI and I have to grade them. But they translate it to Greek, they translate it to English, and then they translate it back to the original language, and then they hand it to me, so I can't find it. So what do you think about this changing so fast? Like, whatever you say, do you think, like, do you feel safe about it, or how do you feel about it? Like, the younger generations, they are doing it or receiving this so differently, as far as I see.
I have 4 children. The eldest is 33, the youngest is 20. The 20-year-old is bright, he's sensitive, he's articulate, never reads anything, never does anything, as far as I can tell. He just looks at his phone. And I think we've got a really fundamental change in education going on, where historically the wise person was the person with the big hard disk who could retain a huge amount of information, and you'd ask them about medicine or the stars or about love or, you know, how to make pickles, and they could access this information and give it to you. I think nowadays that it's just like happening in entertainment. It's becoming streaming. So I can see with my 20-year-old that he has no incentive to retain. He only streams, and I actually quite like it, because what he's learning to do and what he's spending his time doing is critical thinking. So I hear a lot of people saying, oh, the youngsters are really lazy, they just use AI, blah, blah, blah. I love it, because I see the way he works now on his university projects, when he ever does them, and he's prompting AI, but he has to think about the right prompts, and then he has to evaluate what it comes back with. Then he has to, a bit like you guys are cheating, sending it around the houses so it isn't recognizable. He has to interpret what the most important bits of it are. So I'm finding that he's much more thoughtful about his subjects, because he's interacting with AI in his own way, in his own time, and he's doing critical thinking, not retention. I think retention's a really hard educational system. Critical thinking is much easier and much better for us. So I think we have to be anxious that people don't learn anything, but I think we should be hopeful that actually we'll become better thinkers.
Another question, I think we still have time. Over there.
Thank you very much for this nice panel. I'm an author, writer, and also, by chance, an executive on the IT industry as well. So I am very well fed with AI discussions so far. And of course,
should be on the panel.
No, not that much, I guess. And I clearly am using AI as an assistant to research details, and it speeds up my writing process. But what fears me most is that when we publish something, even a bit of information on Facebook or on Twitter, somebody copies that snippet and creates another story using AI, and they publish it directly to somewhere else. And probably it's a very bad copy of what we are doing, but there is a market for that as well, especially on the young generations platforms where they read. How do you see this can be avoided in the future?
That's for you, copyright guys.
Well, there's a law for that. If that takes place in Greece, Law 2121 of 1993 protects copyright. So if they just copy the idea and use it, you can take them to court. It's that easy. It's nothing. It's not some. It's old school thinking. So did I cover you? I don't know.
How much can you monitor?
Sorry?
How much can you monitor that? Because it's happening.
You cannot monitor. If you, that's another. You need to be aware of that somebody stole you in order to go after them.
Yeah, you can go after them.
Done, right? Another one?
We have also the song.
Oh yeah.
I know.
Let me just say, Nadim will be at our stand later if anyone wants to continue the conversation and maybe get his book or something.
Yeah. You buy a book, you make a question, right?
Exactly. So I copied Michalis to extend the answer to my question. I copied Michalis Kalamara's post from a thread in Facebook, the idea, and wrote a book around it using AI. It was yes, it was about a non-existent island called Psímithos, which was a great meme in Greece during the summer. So this book is it takes place in Psímithos. It was apparently written by an author who was born in Psímithos, obviously not. So this is available in Apple Books and Google Play Books for free if anyone wants to read an AI-generated novel.
So the last question.
Okay, so the past 3 years or so, I've been attending a lot of conferences, academic conferences, the Frankfurt Book Fair. Well, obviously, AI in publishing, in readership, and authorship is a crucial thing that's discussed. And one thing I found problematic is the definition of AI, because right now it's not what I would think of as artificial intelligence. I think of it as large language models that are scraped and made a huge corpus of information from which is naturally biased culturally with language, like you said, English. And my concern is in publishing, how do we keep this from marginalizing even more the voices that are already naturally marginalized in how publishing works? How do we keep the big publishers that have all the money that can do all the fancy AI things from making publishing even smaller and smaller as far as which voices get heard and who do we hear from and who gets published?
It's a tough question. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, yeah. You know, I mean, see, there's no clarity around things. You're calling it a large language model, and I mean, generative AI has been around. The first thing was started in 2014, and I believe it was called something like. Okay. I have a history about it. So in 2014, it was called Generative Adversarial Network, invented by Ian Goodfellow. So, I mean, it's been around for a while now, and I think the only thing I can advocate at this point of time is some sort of regulation for the usage of AI within publishing. But it's a long drawn battle. So and there has to be, and this regulation should not be just initiated by the publishers. I mean, it should include all the stakeholders, especially who create content, and then only actually we can somehow articulate it in a better way.
All right, I think time is up. I think we're going to be around a little bit to have some questions. Thank you very much. Thank you for the book fair, for the organization. Thank you, Nopi. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, that was a quite interesting conversation, I can say. That was one of those conversations where we feel that we learned a lot and maybe we understood quite better this new world to come, this new digital world to come, very much involved with artificial intelligence. So I would like to thank by heart Nadim Sadek, Argyris Castagnotis, Prasad Pathak, and Carlo Carreño for accepting this invitation and be here with us and share your expertise, your knowledge, and your option on this new world. Thank you. And now we go to the next.